Here we go. So, all right, guys. So, WrestleMania 33. So, first off, to recap some of the events, some of the things leading to into WrestleMania 33. The major thing was the six lady match for in the six pack challenge match being moved from the pre-show to the main event, which at the time, thinking about how exciting the match could possibly be, with six ladies involved, some of the six best ladies involved on the SmackDown roster, competing in that match. It felt like, okay, there was huge upside for them doing that, and it made a lot of sense to make that move. I was also one of the people that I was very disappointed that they were actually going to put that in the pre-show instead of putting it in the main like card. So they moved it, which is good. So then in the preliminary pre-show matches, we had Neville taking on Austin Aries for the cruiserweight championship belt. It was a pretty decent match, actually. So I don't normally watch the cruiserweight stuff, but I mean that was actually a really good match. There was a lot of substance to the match, a lot of moves, a lot of high flying moves, a lot of storyline that was kind of reintroduced when like Neville was raking like Austin Aries' eye socket and stuff like that. So I mean there was a lot of substance left there, and the ending made sense because I felt like for Aries to just like all of a sudden come out like and challenge him, like you didn't really have much of a storyline leading into that match, so therefore it made sense to me for Austin or for Neville to retain the title, and then you can kind of carry that forward. So I have no problem with that match. It was a good match. Um, Second match we had on the pre-show was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So it was the fourth one. So interestingly enough, like from the beginning, I felt like Mojo Raleigh was gonna win. I actually did even 2K17 WWE 2K17 simulation of a 30-man battle royal based on the original entrance, and he ended up winning the match anyways. So that was kind of neat to see him win. But one, I don't really watch NXT or anything like that, so I don't really know much about these guys. But he was. I know he came out of NXT and he'd been on the roster for a little while, but they hadn't really done anything with this dude. So maybe this will get him somewhere. But if he follows in the footsteps of Baron Corbin, remember Baron Corbin won this thing last year, and what has Baron Corbin really done? Like he's come in and he's terrorized like little guys practically. He had a match tonight, which we'll get to, but I mean, honestly, so what this is telling me right now is Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. It doesn't really mean a whole lot for the winner unless WWE decides that they want to make it mean a lot. And so far, it hasn't really meant a lot um, for this. So there's that. So we'll see what happens with Mojo Raleigh. Then obviously they had the thing where Rob Gronkowski got involved, which whatever. I mean, it was kind of just random heat, so whatever. It's some people might think that was cool, but I'm kind of iffy on that one. I don't really like Rob Gronkowski anyway. So, anyway, so next match we had, which again, so this was a match that actually got moved from the actual main card to the pre-show. This was the Intercontinental Championship match. Can you believe that? A championship match, a title match, got moved from freaking the main card to the pre-show. So the six woman match essentially replaced this match on the main card. So this match again, it had a lot of substance. These guys seemed like they had some chemistry in the ring. It seemed somewhat a little clunky, but it wasn't really that bad of a match, to be honest. Um, and again, I'm putting this in terms based on matches that occurred later in the night, so just keep that in mind right now. So if you saw the matches, then you probably understand where I'm going with this. But when you take this match, you compare it to all the other ones that occurred later. This match actually wasn't really that bad. You had Dean Ambrose trying to hit some. You had Dean Ambrose trying to hit some of his moves, and he it looked like Corbin had scouted him on some of his moves, and so they had some interesting things happen there, which I thought was cool. I thought it was cool that like Ambrose tried to hit some of his key signature moves, and Corbin countered them, in the beginning of the match, but then ultimately it ended up being too much for him, and Dean Ambrose was able to come through with the win and retain the title. I kind of thought he might drop the title, but it didn't necessarily make too much sense for him to drop it right away. So I mean, it was cool to see Dean Ambrose keep that belt, because I feel like he's still like one of the top like competitors right now. I mean, honestly, when you look at everyone else in the landscape, he's still got to be one of those guys that's up there somewhere with a title around his waist. Um, the next one, AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon. Again, I didn't really have a whole lot of. Now this was on the main card, so this was the first match on the main card. Um, I felt like this match actually had a lot of substance to it too. I mean, again, compared to matches that occurred later in the evening, this match was actually really good. I mean, there was a lot of different moves. AJ Styles went for the coast to coast on Shane McMahon, which was cool to see, but then he ended up missing. And then Shane McMahon hit the coast to coast on AJ Styles. AJ Styles, hit the Styles Clash on Shane. Shane was able to kick out. But ultimately, I mean, it felt like a match that AJ should have won. Otherwise, then who was AJ Styles and why is he in WWE if you can just walk in and Shane McMahon beat you? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it didn't make sense for Shane to win this one. It made sense for AJ to win. But maybe AJ comes out of it with more respect for Shane McMahon. I don't know. So, we'll see. But I think they had to end it right there, because what kind of story can you really have, with this? I mean, if Shane wins, then you have to have some sort of longer duration storyline to carry forward. And there's really nothing to carry forward with this now, with AJ Styles winning. Uh, After that, Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho. Again, that was actually another pretty decent match. A lot of, again, more substance to that match as well. It was a back and forth match. Kevin Owens ultimately, it made sense that Kevin Owens would win the match, given that Chris Jericho's pretty much on his way out. So it's nonsensical for Chris Jericho to retain the title. So for anyone who follows any of the stories and stuff like that, you understand that Jericho was already on his way out. So I mean, it clearly made no sense for Kevin, or for him to retain this title. And again, since Owens was pretty much screwed out of maintaining the Universal title, at least they dropped some title on him as a replacement. But again, that's a whole different story, whole different concern of mine with WWE and their direction recently. So, anyways, next one we are. So the next one was the Raw Women's Championship, Bayley versus Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and Nia Jax. It was actually a pretty decent match. I mean, this one seemed like where they started getting pretty scripted to me. Because at the beginning all the ladies went after Nia Jax, and then they did their best. They actually eliminated her. Now they did make it interesting, where they all kind of pancaked on top of her to pin her. They had a part where it was like Bayley and Sasha, two of the girls were trying to like suplex Nia Jax, back suplex her, and then Charlotte came through with a big boot and clocked her right in the face, and they suplexed her at the same time. So I mean, they had a lot of interesting, unique moves. I mean, you had top rope moves, and Charlotte and Bayley and Sasha all using their flexibility and whatnot to do what they do best. They put on a good show, and then ultimately Bayley kind of gave like the impression at the end of the match like she was afraid to battle Charlotte. She looked like she had some doubt in her mind, and she was able to pull out the match. And so it had some good highs and lows, but ultimately, I mean, Bayley came out on top, and it was a pretty solid match for the Raw Women's Championship. Next, you had yes. So next you had the three-way tag team ladder match, which of course the best thing that WWE could have done. Which again, it took them a while to do it, but they eventually pulled it off, where they were able to get the Broken Hardys to come back to WWE. So just before the match started, which it seemed like this was going to happen, but didn't seem like it was set in stone just yet. New Day comes out. They say that there's another tag team that was added to the match, and it was going to be a four-way tag team ladder match for the Raw Tag Team Championships. And then the Hardy Boys come out. Man, that crowd just like bam! That crowd just exploded. Probably the most exciting part of the night, to be honest. The first most exciting. The second most exciting, I would have to say, was when the Hardys actually won the match. So, I mean, it was exciting. The crowd was very excited about it. Now, do I agree with WWE giving them the belts right away? Man, I mean, I know they had tenure there previously, so I mean, there's something to be said about that. But I just don't like when WWE brings in these guys and then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, they got the belt, or like the day later, they got the belt. So I mean, it's just that kind of that's one of the things that bugs me about them obtaining the titles so quickly. Again, that's a personal thing, personal preference for how they do things. But nonetheless, the Hardys won. They had a huge pop coming in. They got a huge pop winning the belts. So fans were happy. That's ultimately what matters. You had next you had so this is where things started to kind of taper off. I would say this is, well, maybe a little bit. They started to taper off a little bit here. So you had John Cena and Nikki Bella versus Miz and Maurice. Now, honestly, I thought Miz and Maurice were going to win this match because it seemed like John Cena and Nikki Bella were gonna take some time off, which it sounds like that's probably still what's going to happen. So it felt like, oh, okay, so maybe they'll just make Miz and Maurice be the more prominent, like, kind of couple in WWE, and kind of like while John Cena and Nikki Bella kind of step to the side for a while, and go do their thing. But with the way that the Miz was dominating the match for so long, it seemed to me like then I was like thinking, okay, there's no way that Cena doesn't win this match because of the way the momentum had shifted so much in Miz's favor. And sure enough, they won. He proposed to Nikki Bella at the end of the match. It wasn't really an exciting match at all. Maurice barely wrestled, which makes sense because she hadn't been in there in the ring for like 5 years or something like that. So she barely was in the ring at all. She basically just was in there long enough for Nikki Bella to hit her finisher on her, and that was pretty much it. So, that was that was pretty much that match. So that match was kind of like meh, whatever. I mean, Miz got to be cocky, which he's very good at, but ultimately he didn't win. Neither did Maurice. I don't know if the WWE really won from the way that match went, but it is what it is. Plus, John Cena got to propose, so that's that was nice to see. Next match, Seth Rollins versus Triple H, a non-sanctioned match. Again, that was, I wouldn't say a predictable match, but there wasn't a lot of back and forth. The reversals for the pedigree is what stands out to me. They had so many reversals of them trying to pedigree one another. You felt like it had to be a match that Triple H had to drop to Seth Rollins, but then again, I wasn't really sure like which way it was going to go, to be honest. It could have gone either way, in my opinion. But ultimately, Seth Rollins ended up pulling up the win. Triple H knocked into Stephanie off the apron into the table. So that was kind of a highlight of the match, which, Stephanie always seems, and when she comes down as Triple H's manager, she always finds a way to get involved. And she got involved a couple times early in the match by stopping Seth Rollins, preventing him from hitting moves or hitting Triple H with the sledgehammer, for example. But ultimately, her involvement in the match wasn't enough to help Triple H get the victory. So now Seth Rollins has the victory over him and can say, okay, it's time to move on. But again, that match had some pretty good substance to it. I mean, there was a lot of good moves. They had their various holds and high powered moves, low powered moves. Seth kind of teasing the whole injury angle with his leg landing weirdly when he fell off, when he tried to like power slam Triple H off the top rope, when he did the sunset flip off the top rope. So I mean, that was kind of, again, that was kind of like they teased things that happened in the past. So that's what gave it its kick that it needed. So this is where things get bad. Again, my opinion, but this is where things get really bad. So you had Brock Lesnar and Goldberg. Now, all these matches that they'd had, like in the recent like weeks, months, whatever it is, have gone back and forth. So let's recap real quick. So Goldberg comes in, he beats Brock Lesnar in like a minute. The one time, then Brock Lesnar beats him. Goldberg beats Brock Lesnar at eliminates Brock Lesnar at Royal Rumble in like 10 seconds. And then Chris Jericho comes out and comes out to a huge pop in the beginning of the Kevin Owens match against Goldberg for the title. Goldberg basically hits Kevin Owens with two moves, and then Owens is defeated and no longer Universal Champ after his pretty lengthy reign as Universal Champ, which I thought he was doing pretty good at. So this is actually one place where I think WWE screwed up, to be honest. But anyway, so that's the story. So Goldberg's a champ. Brock Lesnar challenged him. Paul Heyman just talks way too fucking much, and I swear that guy likes to listen to himself talk. They had that long ass like intro video that Paul Heyman did where he's talking, reading some bedtime story essentially, which practically put me to sleep almost. It was just so annoying. But either way, so they come to this match. Literally, this is where the drop off and I don't want to say talent, but I mean the drop off of like creativeness to this whole thing just went down the toilet, man. I mean, like WWE, like the only thing. So again, as I watched the match, the thing that stuck in my mind right now, we'll call out. There were 4 moves in this match. There was F5, German suplex, spear, and damn, what the hell's that move that Goldberg does? Now I forget the move. Of course I would. But you know what I'm talking about. So essentially, there's 4 moves that essentially were this match. I mean, there was no holds, there was no rope, there was no like power struggle, there was no like shoulder blocks. There was nothing. I mean, the only thing that was exciting about this match was Goldberg spearing Brock Lesnar through the security railing, which fell apart, and it looked like Goldberg actually like cut himself in the head or something. Then there was the part where Brock Lesnar he jumped over Goldberg trying to hit him with the spear, and Goldberg looked like he literally hurt himself because he was shaking his head, and I don't know if he was just selling it really good, but he looked actually pretty he actually looked he got injured from that. Like he may have had a concussion potentially, who knows. But ultimately the match was just suplexes and spears and F5s. I mean, that was practically the whole match. It was just effing annoying. So yeah, so again, I felt like, I don't really care about who got the title. I don't have much, to me, Brock Lesnar doesn't have much credibility anymore because of the fact that 1, he's a part-timer, 2, he cheated in UFC. So that to me, like, I don't see why WWE is trying to drop a belt on him anymore. Other than maybe if you want some up-and-comer to try to find a way to get through him, then maybe, or maybe they have a rematch. Maybe they give Goldberg a rematch and he sticks around a little bit longer. Who knows? But either way, this match was just shit to me. It was one of the worst matches of the night. No joke. Next match, Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. So this match could have gone either way as well, I thought, in my mind. I mean, I felt like Bray Wyatt probably would retain because I think a lot of us have been waiting a long time for Bray Wyatt to finally win a championship. And he was finally healthy enough for long enough to actually make that happen, just to drop it to Randy Orton. So, who was kind of he was in the Wyatt family, then he was like out of the Wyatt family. It's just like, whatever. So Randy Orton sneakily actually was responsible for helping the Wyatts break up to some extent, besides the draft. But either way, so this match, to me, the whole match felt scripted. Like literally everything they did was like, okay, well, like you're gonna do this move, you're gonna do that move, and then Randy Orton, then you're gonna roll out of the ring. Then we're gonna like think about what we got to do next. And Randy Orton, you come in the ring, then you do this and I do that. Then, okay, Bray Wyatt, you look like you got hurt. We'll do some more stuff. Then Randy Orton, you roll out of the ring. It just seemed like it was so slow paced, and there were some moves that were hit on the inside and outside of the ring, but it just seemed like it was missing something. I can't really say what, other than like there weren't a lot of holds or anything like that. They had that creepy thing with, Bray Wyatt would bend over backwards, and then you'd have like maggots show up in the ring. I mean, that was cool. Like that was cool to see that for Bray Wyatt because he kind of has that Undertaker persona for me. But that wasn't enough to get him over, I guess, or for WWE to say, okay, hey, yeah, we're going to keep the belt on you. So that was my problem with this match, was that the whole thing just seemed so extremely scripted, and there wasn't a lot of, ingenuity that went on. It's not like they invented anything on the fly or tried to like give it that extra something or another. It just seemed like the whole thing was scripted to work one way, and that's exactly the way they went, and that was the end of the story. So Randy Orton ended up hitting Bray Wyatt with RKO at the end to win the match, and that's usual. Then you get Michael Cole, RKO out of nowhere. Oh God, Michael Cole, please shut up sometimes. I used to love Michael Cole, but damn dude, he's such a butthead anymore. But anyways, Besides the point. Moving on. Next match. Naomi versus so it was sorry. So Alexa Bliss as the champ, defending her belt against Natalia, Carmella, Becky Lynch, Mickie James, and Naomi. So I felt like this match had a lot of promise, given that it was moved from the pre-show to the main card. And gosh, this match was after Lesnar and Goldberg. So let's think about that. This match was after a WWE Universal title match. Okay? And it's one thing to promote the female wrestlers. I get that, and I actually like it. And like I said earlier, this match I felt had a lot of promise because of the competitors. Now, I knew Mickie James wasn't going to win, but I think all the other girls, they had a shot at legitimately winning the belt because there's no reason why they couldn't have won. But Mickie James, no, certainly not. She's too damn old at this point. Why would you throw a belt on her? That's why. But this match, literally, again, it was another completely scripted match. It was so bad. It was so bad because literally, like, everyone spent the majority of the time outside the ring. There was always like two people in the ring at once, and then when there wasn't two people in the ring, maybe someone was in, like, you'd have three in there temporarily, but like Alexa Bliss would come in and throw someone out, and then there'd be two people left. So either way, like, someone would come in and someone would come out. There was like hardly anyone in the ring, and I felt like with this type of match, it was going to be somewhat scripted in a way, but it just didn't seem like there was enough that happened in the match to make it, like, to sell the fact that, oh, these women they're giving it their all to fight for this belt. It just seemed kind of like, well, this is the person who's going to win, and that's pretty much it, and they just kind of had to work their way towards that, but there wasn't any substance to this match at all. There was not any holds. I mean, they got away with this fake Natalia doing the sharpshooter thing to two people, to Naomi and Carmella. But even then, like, that thing slipped before she could even lock it in, and they were streaming, and you couldn't even tell. The camera angle was from the other side, so you couldn't even tell if she had the hold on. And then Mickie James came in and kicked Natalia in the head. I mean, to break the hold, and the camera didn't even show if she was actually holding on to the actual sharpshooter or not. So, I mean, the idea of that was cool, but they didn't execute on that, which was probably one of the highlights of the match, to be honest, which is kind of sad because they didn't really have a whole lot that really happened. There wasn't a lot of a lot of team-up moves or anything like that. It was just literally just one-on-one the whole way through, with the exceptions of, like, a few parts, and that was it. And for that reason, I felt like they should have just kept this damn match on the pre-show and put Dean Ambrose and Corbin on the main card. This match needed to go to the pre-show. I mean, for heck, even freaking Goldberg and Brock Lesnar should have been on the damn pre-show with the way that match went, dudes. I mean, I'm for real, man. That was just a tragic freaking match to watch. Last but not least, of course, we can't forget Undertaker and Roman Reigns. Again, what a shit match. I mean, I'm not trying to say, look, I've been a fan of WWE, and maybe you can kind of sort of call me a bandwagon fan, but I've been a general fan of WWE for a long time now. And I've watched WrestleManias in the past. I remember older WrestleManias, WrestleMania 7, a lot of those great matches that they used to have. When the show was less longer than 6 hours. This is 6.5 hours we're watching this thing practically, with the pre-show and all that other stuff. And it just seems like they're skimping out their matches, man. They're before you used to pay like $60, $70 a pop, and now you're not paying that, and now they're like putting on some kind of shit matches, just to get by and fill time essentially. And this is on the main card that they're doing that. That's what I dislike about where they're headed with this, where they've been headed with this so far this year. But anyway, so we did Roman Reigns and The Undertaker, and again, so I just didn't like the match. I didn't appreciate the match at all. It basically was a reminder of Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, 100%. The only thing that made this match something was the fact that Roman Reigns speared Undertaker through the Spanish announce table. And then pretty much the only other move was Undertaker did Tombstone, Undertaker did Chokeslam, Undertaker did Hell's Gate, Roman Reigns did a spear like 500 times, Roman Reigns did a Superman punch 500 times, and then you had the huge botch You had a huge botch 3/4 of the way through the match, which I think was supposed to be Roman Reigns. His price was to flip Undertaker. Undertaker to the tombstone, and then Roman Reigns had countered him, and he tried to lift up the Undertaker. But what ruined it is he tried it like 2 or 3 times to try to lift the Undertaker back up, and he couldn't do it. So then he just basically let him go, turned him around, and countered with the Superman punch, and that was pretty much it, dude. I mean, it was just it was sad to watch that. At which at the end of the match, Undertaker basically took all his gloves and hats off and left everything in the ring. And if that's really the Undertaker's last match, that was just the saddest last match ever. Like, why would that be the match you'd go out to? I mean, seriously, guys, I am so like, I enjoyed the Undertaker, and I always joke with my friend in the past about Undertaker's streak ending, and when it ended with Brock, okay, that was one thing, and that was, don't ask me about that. That's a whole different thing. But seeing Undertaker lose to Roman Reigns in the way he did, he essentially got dominated by Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns just kept doing the same move over and over again, which is traditional Roman Reigns. And now you're going to get this bullshit where WWE is going to try to cram this shit down our throats. Like, Roman Reigns will come out, yeah, I made Undertaker retire and blah, blah, blah. He's going to be talking and walking all big and stuff like that. But it's like, dude, come on, man. Like, this only happened because WWE likes you, man. And most fans don't even like you, dude. I mean, you're not even that talented as a wrestler. You're not talented on the mic. I mean, those are the reasons why people don't like you. It's pretty much easy, dude. But anyways, I mean, that was my opinion on the match. And like I said, it's just sad to see if that's the Undertaker's truly last match. This is a sad way to go out, my dudes. I feel bad for the Undertaker, that being his last match. The Undertaker's last match needed to be with someone like an HBK or even a Ric Flair for that matter. I mean, Roman Reigns needed Undertaker to carry him, and Undertaker, I think he needed someone to carry him because of the fact that he's old, man. He's beat up. His career was coming to an end. Undertaker needed someone to carry him, and Roman Reigns is not that guy. Roman Reigns is absolutely positively not that guy. So that was very unfortunate to see that match go the way it did, and it just a travesty, to be honest. So, and then we got to see Undertaker, leave with his music and the gong going off and stuff like that, and he put his hand up at the end, and that was pretty much it. So that's pretty much my recap. I mean, overall, I mean, I don't really have a very high I don't have a high appreciation for what took place at this WrestleMania, to be honest. Like I said, the last 4 matches, in my opinion, were garbage matches. They were essentially just, how the hell do we get over with this event as fast as possible? At least 3 out of the 4 were like semi-quick, or 2 out of the 4 were semi-quick matches. But, again, they just seemed like they were just trying to follow a script to the T, and they failed to sell anything that happened during these matches, and it was just sad, my opinion, to be honest. I wasn't feeling it, guys. But anyways, so I'm gonna put this review up tonight, guys. What are your thoughts on how you thought WrestleMania went? What do you think about my opinions on the match? Where do you think WWE goes from here in terms of matchups and stuff like that? Let me know in the comments, guys. I appreciate your thoughts and opinions very much. Be sure to leave me a like if you like what you watch here. Leave me, hook me up with a subscribe, and turn on notifications, guys. Okay, thank you.